Script. A lone orange life raft bobs in the gray Atlantic, and inside, a young man waits for rescue after 8 days at sea. His name is Nathan Carman, and the world is about to learn that his mother, Linda Carman, is gone and his family is already haunted by death. 3 years earlier, Nathan Carman's grandfather, real estate millionaire John Chakalos, was found shot to death in his bed in Windsor, Connecticut. Welcome back to True Crime Animator Studio. I'm Tim B., joined by my co-host Zeus, who is currently occupying most of my desk. Today we're unpacking the Carman family deaths, a case of wealth, tragedy, and allegations that never reached a jury. Quick heads up. This story involves real deaths and allegations of murder, but we'll avoid graphic detail and focus on the human impact. Let's start with the people at the center of this story, because they're more than names in a headline. Linda Carman was 54, a divorced mom from Middletown, Connecticut, who loved the water and was very close to her only son, Nathan Carman. Linda Carman was also the daughter of John Chakalos, an 7-year-old real estate developer who built a fortune in nursing homes across New England. John Chakalos doted on Nathan Carman, his first male grandchild, helping with school expenses, housing, and even a horse, weaving money into family ties. Nathan Carman, born in 1994, grew up quiet and intense, diagnosed on the autism spectrum and often more comfortable with adults than with peers. He loved the outdoors, guns, and boats, but also struggled socially, something that later colored how investigators read his behavior. On the morning of the 20th of December 2013, John Chakalos' daughter, Elaine Carman, stopped by his Windsor home and found a scene that changed everything. John Chakalos was dead in his bed, killed by gunfire. Drawers were undisturbed, and police quickly ruled it a targeted homicide, not a burglary. Investigators soon learned that Nathan Carman had dinner with his grandfather, John Chakalos, the night before and was the last family member to see him alive. They also discovered Nathan Carman had recently bought a Sig Sauer rifle matching the caliber used, a weapon he now claimed he had simply lost. Police drafted an arrest warrant in 2014, but a prosecutor said the evidence wasn't strong enough, so no murder charge was ever filed. John Chakalos' killing remains officially unsolved, even as suspicion quietly settled on the grandson he had once been so generous toward. After John Chakalos' death, his estate, worth tens of millions, created a tangle of trusts and accounts, with Nathan Carman in line for significant funds. Nathan Carman received about $550,000 from accounts his grandfather set up. He moved to Vermont, bought a house, and tried to start fresh. By 2016, prosecutors say, much of that money was gone, and Nathan Carman was struggling financially in Vernon, Vermont. That September, Nathan Carman made plans with Linda Carman for an overnight fishing trip. A chance, some relatives hoped, for mother and son to reconnect. On the night of the 17th of September 2016, they left Ram Point Marina in Rhode Island on Nathan Carman's 31-foot aluminum boat, the Chicken Pox. According to investigators, the boat had issues: removed trim tabs, patched holes, and no emergency beacon actively registered for the trip. Nathan Carman later told the Coast Guard that sometime after midnight he heard a strange noise from the engine compartment. He said water rushed in too fast to stop. The Chicken Pox sank within minutes, and in the chaos he lost sight of Linda Carman in the darkness. Nathan Carman climbed into an inflatable life raft, he said, and by dawn he was alone on open ocean, Linda Carman nowhere to be seen. Back on shore, family members realized Linda Carman and Nathan Carman had not returned. The Coast Guard launched a massive air and sea search. Rescuers scoured more than 60,000 square nautical miles, but days passed with no sign of the missing mother and son. 8 days after they left port, a freighter called the Orient Lucky spotted Nathan Carman adrift in his life raft off Martha's Vineyard. Video and witness accounts describe Nathan Carman climbing aboard under his own power, appearing alert, with few obvious signs of exposure. At first, Nathan Carman was framed as a miracle survivor, the lone man who lived through a freak maritime accident that claimed his mother, Linda Carman. But as investigators dug deeper, that narrative began to shift, and questions multiplied faster than answers. Coast Guard and FBI teams examined the ruined boat and Nathan Carman's preparations, and found details they felt didn't add up. A bucket of live eels intended as bait was still unused in his truck, and he had recently bought an anchor and chain that did not fit the boat. Experts said removing the trim tabs left structural openings that could let water in, making the vessel more vulnerable far offshore. Prosecutors would later argue that Nathan Carman altered the Chicken Pox so it would sink, killing Linda Carman and looking like a tragic accident. Nathan Carman, however, consistently denied harming his mother, insisting the sinking was a terrible accident and that he had done his best. When Nathan Carman later filed an insurance claim for the lost boat, the company pushed back, accusing him of causing the sinking himself. In 2019, after a civil trial, a federal judge ruled that Nathan Carman had, directly or indirectly, caused the Chicken Pox to go down and denied payment. At the same time, 3 of John Chakalos' other daughters filed a civil slayer lawsuit to block Nathan Carman from inheriting about $7 million. They argued he had killed their father, John Chakalos, and that their sister Linda Carman vanished under suspicious circumstances with Nathan Carman as the link. But in 2019, a New Hampshire judge dismissed that case on jurisdictional grounds, leaving Nathan Carman still technically eligible for the money. Through it all, Nathan Carman spoke to reporters, sometimes calmly, sometimes agitated, always insisting, "I did not kill my mom or my grandfather." His attorneys argued that his flat affect, irritability, and gaps in his story reflected autism and anxiety, not guilt or lack of remorse. Zeus flicks his tail and looks up at me, as if asking, "Tim, was Nathan Carman a manipulative killer or just a deeply misunderstood survivor?" The hard truth is that in this case, many people see Nathan Carman as both victim and villain, depending on which facts they find most convincing. Meanwhile, the homicide of John Chakalos moved to Connecticut's cold case lists, still open, but with no one ever charged. Behind the scenes, investigators kept piecing together financial records, gun purchases, missing electronics, and that disastrous fishing trip. On the 10th of May 2022, a federal grand jury in Vermont indicted Nathan Carman on 8 counts, including murder on the high seas and multiple fraud charges. The indictment alleged a years-long inheritance scheme, starting with John Chakalos' 2013 shooting and ending with Linda Carman's disappearance at sea. Importantly, Nathan Carman still was not formally charged with his grandfather's homicide, even though prosecutors described it as part of the fraud. Assistant U.S. Attorney Paul Van de Graaff led the case, and Chief Judge Jeffrey Crawford was assigned to preside over the upcoming trial. Nathan Carman pleaded not guilty and was ordered held without bail, awaiting a trial that could have sent him to prison for life if convicted. His defense team, including attorneys Martin Minella and David Sullivan, vowed to dismantle the government's circumstantial narrative. They prepared to call experts on ocean survival, boat safety, and autism, arguing that investigators had misread both the evidence and Nathan Carman himself. Jury selection was scheduled for October 2023, and for a moment, it looked like the Carman family would finally see a courtroom showdown. Instead, in June 2023, guards at a New Hampshire jail found Nathan Carman unresponsive in his cell while he awaited trial. Officials determined there was no foul play. His lawyers said Nathan Carman had died by suicide, a final twist that stunned his family and the public. With the defendant gone, the court dismissed all charges, leaving the federal murder and fraud case forever unresolved. Later, after years of legal limbo, Linda Carman was officially declared dead, even though her body has never been found. John Chakalos' shooting remains unsolved, and both of their estates are still tied up in probate, with relatives fighting over how to divide the fortune. In 2025, ABC's 20 Over 20 and Netflix's The Carman Family Deaths returned the case to headlines, laying out evidence and doubts for viewers to weigh. The documentaries feature voices across the spectrum: grieving aunts, Nathan Carman's father, Clark Carman, seasoned detectives, Coast Guard agents, and legal experts. Some point to the missing rifle, the altered boat, and the drained bank accounts, and see a cold plan driven by greed and resentment. Others point to a socially isolated, neurodivergent man under immense pressure, whose every misstep was interpreted as proof of evil. Zeus watches the screen and quietly wonders, can someone be both victim and villain at the same time, depending on where you stand? I think about John Chakalos and Linda Carman, who cannot speak for themselves, and about Nathan Carman, who died without ever facing a jury of his peers. This case reminds us that true crime is not just about solving puzzles, it is about the heavy cost when justice is delayed or incomplete. For John Chakalos' daughters, for Linda Carman's friends, and for those who once cared about Nathan Carman, the story is not just mysterious, it is deeply personal. Civil courts, slayer rules, and inheritance battles can answer some financial questions, but they cannot fill the empty seats at family tables. We may never know, beyond reasonable doubt, What really happened in John Chakalos' bedroom, or on that dark stretch of Atlantic water? What we do know is that warning signs, guns, money, stress, mental health struggles, risky decisions at sea were visible long before tragedy hit. Cases like this challenge us to ask how families, communities, and systems can intervene earlier, before suspicion, grief, and litigation take over. Zeus curls his tail around his paws, and, in the silence, I hope that remembering Linda Carman and John Chakalos as people, not just victims, is one small act of respect. Thank you for watching, and for keeping your thoughts in the comments empathetic toward everyone affected by this case. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like, subscribe, and share, and let us know which aspect of the Carman family story struck you most. Until next time, this is Timby and Zeus, signing off from the studio and reminding you to stay curious, stay kind, and stay safe.